We're so glad that you stay tuned with us right here on KBDI Channel 12 for 9/11 Press for Truth. Kyle Hentz, the producer, is back. Kyle, there were a couple things you wanted to address.
Well, I just wanted to just say that you've just seen a section of the film that connected the dots that the media didn't. This film tells the story of the families and the 9/11 Commission that let them down, but it also is a critique of the mainstream media. And the media failed on the whole to tie a lot of the threads together that this film was able and that other people have been able to do in books and so on in the years since. And so I just wanted to make that point. This is a media critique, and this is a critical function that we have to have working in a healthy democracy.
So Kyle, how did you get involved with this project?
Well, Ray Novoselsky and John Duffy, director and producer respectively, called me up one day and said, we're working on this film, here's our angle, we're featuring the story of Paul Thompson and his timeline, which I thought was an eminently credible way to approach a very difficult subject matter. And they said, we need support, would you like to, be a supporter and help fund this film? And I said, sure, because I saw two young filmmakers that had a good approach, a sound approach, and I wrote them a check, and it just snowballed from there. And the next thing I know, I'm conducting interviews, doing all kinds of research, tracking down footage, traveling back and forth between New York and DC, eventually editing and writing the script and finding a narrator, and there's 1,000 things to do before you get to the point where you realize you have another 1,000 things to do. So it was a challenge that I'm glad I took up.
Well, great job. It's a really fine documentary,
and
again, it does kind of leave people with more questions. It doesn't draw a lot of...
Hopefully we'll get answers eventually, right, folks?
Yes, we want some answers. So Kyle and I were just talking about what we just saw in the last act of the film.
I mean, one of the things that we were able to do in the film is string together warnings that flowed into the country over many, many months leading up to 9/11, intelligence warnings. The nature of those warnings said that there was a chance of hijacking, that buildings could be targeted, including the CIA. There were exercises leading up to 9/11 that the military undertook, and on the day of 9/11. And yet, repeatedly, the administration told us that there were no warnings initially. On day one, they said there were no warnings. Of course, there were scores of them. And then they said, well, no one could have imagined planes being used as weapons. But Bush himself, with Condi Rice, had gone to Genoa, Italy for the G8 summit, where they ringed the entire facility with anti-aircraft guns to protect from what? A weapon from the sky. So they lied to us. The government lied to us. The commission failed the families. We still don't know the truth about 9/11. And so that's why we're here. We're calling for a new investigation. And later on, we'll talk about what people in New York City are doing right now to hold their government accountable and to get to the bottom of what happened. So I look forward to talking about that. A lot of great information.
So, Kyle, why would our government lie to us?
Well, there's a lot of reasons. One is they're protecting CYA. They're protecting their turf. They're holding on to power. They're advancing an agenda. They're hiding an agenda. So there's everything from embarrassment over incompetence or negligence to possible criminal actions that were taken. Of course, now we're seeing all the truth about the extent of torture after 9/11. And Bob was pointing out earlier that 25% of the footnotes in the 9/11 Commission report are based on torture-induced testimony or torture-induced confessions from Khalid Sheikh Mohammed. That's outrageous.
I'm joined here by Fran Scher. Fran is with the Colorado 9/11 Visibility Group. Fran, thanks so much for being here and bringing your group in. And Fran and her team has helped us in droves in bringing out Kyle and Ray and Bob and putting them up at their homes, and we just can't thank you enough.
Oh, thank you, Sherry. We're so grateful that you are having this program. This is, as you said, the first time in our country that we're learning about this film and on PBS, and we're just so grateful. So
we're glad to do it. It's about taking risks here at the station. We're staying strong even during these economic times, but we're continuing to take risks and bring the Colorado community great information. And why don't you tell our viewers a little bit about your group?
Well, as everyone can see from the film here, there's no controversy anymore that the 9/11 Commission did not do the job it was charged to do. it failed to answer 70% of the questions of the families. Even the commissioners, the chairs said themselves that they were set up to fail. So when we saw that, a group of us here in Colorado said, we need to form a group and we need to inform the people of our community about the unanswered questions of Colorado. And so that's what we've done.
So, you know, Fran, as mentioned earlier, we've had folks call in and they're thanking us for airing this, and other folks are questioning it, and they've called, you know, the conspiracy theorists and all of this. Do you want to briefly touch on that?
Yes, I can. You know, what we've learned is that when we formed Colorado 9/11 Visibility, we realized that we had to that this is such an important subject and that it challenges people's worldview so seriously that we were determined that everything we did, all the information we presented to the public, had the utmost credibility. And what does that mean? The information is credible. That means all of the information is backed by fact and evidence that is documented with credible sources. And so that's what, by the way, all of the products that you are offering as gifts, they're all of the most credible products. And I think
Fran's helped us pick those out, yes, and we've looked at other sources too. So we're trying to bring you some good information.
Right.
So they're wanting us to wrap. Let's now throw it back on over to Rebecca and Bob McIlvaine right here on KBDI.
Thanks, Fran and Sherry. Bob McIlvaine, who lost his son Bobby in the 9/11 tragedy. Bob, you were talking about the moment when you realized that your world had completely changed.
Well, my world really completely changed when my son died, and that, you know, without a doubt, that's it. And that pain will never go away. But during the 9/11 Commission hearings, I honestly got to the point where when they had Condoleezza Rice, and Ben Venice, as you saw on the DVD, was trying to grill her, and I said, geez, maybe we are getting someplace. But Condoleezza Rice, and of course everyone knew that there was warnings before the towers were hit, and it was like a filibuster. I hope everyone knows what a filibuster is, but you just keep talking and talking and talking. Right. And each commissioner only had 5 minutes. Well, I got so angry after that, and again, as I said, I was actually believing in the system that maybe we'll get somewhere in this investigation. Well, I just walked out and I had an interview with Canadian Broadcasting right afterwards, and that's when my anger came out. And with that anger, suddenly everybody had a mic in front of my face. And I just said, and I started cursing. I was so upset. Then you had all these people going up to her and saying, you know, laughing with her, shaking her hands. And I said, what is going on here? You know, this is a murder investigation. She's telling lies, and then everybody's shaking hands with her. Well, then I was just beside myself. And this is when I came to the realization, I always believed that the United States was involved in this. But after Condoleezza Rice, I know, because of my investigation, because no one else has investigated it, my investigation, to me, the United States orchestrated 9/11. And I will tell that to the world to the day I die. It's very important that I get that message out. Because 9/11, we never had an investigation. Again, going back to K-Lead, 183 waterboarding. All the confessions were based upon torture. And that's absurd. That's sick. Thank you.
We have more coming. Bob, stay with us, and we'll be back in a moment. Sherry.
Couple more minutes before we return to the documentary. That number's on your screen, 1-800-690-5234, or you can log on to kbdi.org. Someone called up and they asked, what's the age for the senior membership at 25? And we said, well, 55 or 15 or 95. You know, a $25 gift right now really goes a long way here at KBDI. We use your money wisely. We're very tightly run. We don't have the big salaries here that a lot of the other bigger stations do, and it's an investment in content of this nature right now. So call and participate at any level. And Fran, I wanted to quickly, you mentioned how we put together some great items for people to continue their own investigation. We've yet to tell you, I don't know about that $300 level for the full year, an investment for you and your family. A lot of great information in there. You're going to receive the DVD of the program that includes extended material, the DVD in their own words, which was all of the stuff that ended up on the cutting room floor that has made another wonderful DVD. You're also going to get Blueprint 9/11 that looks at a lot of the physical evidence. It's presented by architect Richard Gage. And Fabled Enemies. This is a relatively new DVD. Picks up after Loose Change director really left off, looking at the relationship of the Saudis with the American government. And then also the two books we've got for you. It's the New Pearl Harbor Revisited. It's a follow-up to David Ray Griffin's first book, and it's really a primer. It kind of gives you a lot of background information. And then The Road to 9/11, which is really kind of an intense, information-laden book. It really looks at the history of the government, of politics, of the military, of intelligence from the 60s through today.